Hello and welcome to the Championship Talk podcast. I'm your host Paul O'Toole and joined that way my co-host Thomas Falco.
Hello.
So first up in the news, we've got Lee Bowyer is now the manager of Birmingham City. Came a bit out of the blue. Was you surprised they sacked Aitor Karanka?
A bit out of the blue, a nice little Birmingham pun to start things off. No, I don't think that should have come as a surprise to anyone who's seen Birmingham over the last couple of months and the last few games in particular. They've just looked very bland and very ordinary, and it didn't come as a surprise. It maybe come as a surprise, but it doesn't happen sooner. I know he only was appointed in the summer. He was on a 3-year contract, replaced Pep Clotet, of course, obviously, didn't he? And
he did.
Yeah, the style of play there has not been the greatest. I know a lot of Birmingham fans probably glad they haven't been able to go to the St Andrews Trillion Trophy because of the style of football there. Just looking at his managerial record now, played 38, won 8, drew 11, lost 19, 21.1% win rate. I've been looking through the stats. Only 2 managers in the history of Birmingham City who have been permanent sort of managers or head coaches have got a worse record than what Aitor Karanka has had. Gianfranco Zola had an 8.3% win percentage, which is incredible when you think about it, because they replaced Gary Rowett with him, didn't he? Because they wanted a big name manager. Look what happened there. And Gary Pendry had a 20.4% win rate as well. So he's officially the 3rd worst manager in terms of stats that Birmingham City have ever had. I think, Paul, did it come as a surprise to you?
I think the surprise, as you said, is they didn't sack him at Christmas. And I actually think by sleeping on that decision, we don't want managers getting the sack.
No, of course
but
not.
Sometimes you can look at a way a club is, or look at a way a team is performing week in, week out, or not performing. And you can look at something, there's some indicators like, are the substitutions he makes making a difference? Is the team changing week to week? Is there a pattern of play? I've probably watched less of Birmingham this season than probably any other club in this league because they have been awful to watch.
It is a style of play, and
they have had games where they've had multiple games where they've not even registered a single shot on target. Style of play, effective play. At the end of the day, there are a couple of managers in this league that are effective with playing a certain way, whether it be direct football, whether it be branded as defensive football. But there is a style of play. I don't think Aitor Karanka's Birmingham had a style of play because I don't think they necessarily had the players to play the way he would have wanted. So it was a style of play implemented by players that just either weren't good enough or really weren't able to do what he wanted to do. And it's culminated in Birmingham being in a really, really serious position. We're going to get into the end of this sort of news segment about where we think the season's going to pan out. We're going to make some predictions, and it's not looking good for Birmingham. However, it is now with Lee Bowyer.
yes, had an instant impact there. You look at the job he done at Charlton. He's there for a few seasons, wasn't he? There was also a little bit of confusion there because apparently he wasn't going to sign a new contract, and then he did. Yes, 157 games, 64 wins, 37 draws, 56 defeats, a win percentage of 40.08. Just say, in case it looks like I'm looking to the sky at the minute, I'm looking where I've put my notes. They're just above where I put my phone, so I don't want to look like I'm just sort of looking for divine inspiration. Lee Bowyer is a good choice, I think. I think many Birmingham fans were quite pleased to hear that he was linked with the post as well. He resigned as manager of Charlton before he was appointed, so I know there's a little bit of talk there about where Birmingham stand with that, if they have to pay compensation, etc., because he resigned before he was announced manager. He's done a good job with the resources at his disposal with Charlton when they were a championship side, didn't he? So I think it is good, and I'm pretty sure you'll wax lyrical about the appointment because you've always said that clubs should look further down the pyramid and go for managers who may be applying their trade at a lower level. He has had championship experience, obviously, but going back to Aitor Karanka, I think this spell, on top of his spell with Nottingham Forest and Middlesbrough still think a lot of Aitor Karanka, but I think his managerial reputation, especially when it comes to managing in England, is in tatters now, isn't it? But going back onto the positives,
I was stunned he went to Birmingham in the first place. I really was, given the alleged previous incidences at Middlesbrough, where there was a period of games, or I think for like one game, or a period of time where he allegedly had to be talked back into the job. Obviously, his stint at Forest definitely wasn't very successful. Kind of didn't see Birmingham as being a team that fit his style of play. Very interesting. I think with Lee Bowyer, though, they've made a really progressive appointment. Charlton were a breath of fresh air last year. They were really good to watch. He had no right to be in the league. Lee Bowyer's Charlton had no right to be in the league last year because of where they were. The Raymond Duchâtelet effect around the club. They had the tennis ball protests and all that rubbish.
And the crisps as well, I think, weren't it? Was it a packet of crisps as well?
Yeah, where the games held up from sort of 15, 20 minutes. And ultimately, winning football games, getting promoted, Lee Bowyer turns out all around. And I think it's a better... to be honest, any club in this league any club in this league could do far worse than Lee Bowyer, and I think that he's gone to a massive, massive club. You know, when the fans in that stadium's, you know, gets 20,000 spectators every single week. That's well above most of the teams that will probably finish in the top six.
Yeah,
and I think that had fans been in the stadium, and it was pointed out on Quest, I think it was a valid point. Had fans been in the stadium, Aitor Karanka wouldn't have lasted till Christmas. It just wouldn't, and I think that's interesting. But with Lee Bowyer, I think it's really, really positive, and I also think that it's going to be a really good move, and it's good to have him in the league, and he, as you say, instant impact, which we'll go on to in a second.
I think it is a shrewd move. Sorry, Paul, I just want to say, because we haven't touched on it, I think it's a very shrewd move from the Birmingham board, because Lee Bowyer, of course, played for the club, didn't he, between 2008 and 2011, initially on loan. I believe it was, I can't read my own writing, 94 games, 12 goals in that time before he moved on to Ipswich for a swan song season, then retired, obviously. But I think Birmingham fans probably appreciate that they have someone there who's played for the club and was passionate for the club as well. He was on loan there when they were in the Championship, I believe, and then played 2 seasons for them in the Premier League. So he's played there in their sort of better times, shall we say. He'll understand the club. He goes in there, as you say, he'll go in there, breath of fresh air. Certainly decent enough players to work with. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But they have, I think they're rivals down near the bottom of the table, and the teams that are just above them as well, probably not happy that they pulled the trigger on Karanka, because Bowyer will go in there and that'll give them an initial wave of points, which will probably either pull them further away or bring other teams closer into the mire. So very, very shrewd move, in my opinion, from Birmingham City Football Club.
Football Index, in case you've been living under a rock, they went bust. They were technically a betting company. However, they labelled themselves as a football investment company. You bought shares in players. You were paid dividends over a period of time. Lots of people were seemingly making money. However, it's the gambling platform was appointed administrators. Customers were subsequently locked out of their accounts with possible losses of up to £90 million. There's a gambling commission investigation into this as to find out what exactly happened, because obviously, with it not being, where did that money go? But on the face of it, fans or investors, however you want to call it, punters, obviously it's gambling, and there was a clause when you signed up. You clicked the little boxes, terms and conditions, which basically said if the company goes bust, you lose your money. It's going to be interesting to see if there's any repercussions that can come and any recouped loss. Football Index sponsored 2 clubs, Nottingham Forest being one and QPR being the other.
Yes, and because of them going into administration and them having their gambling licence suspended by the Gambling Commission as well, Forest and QPR are both not having them on the front of their shirts anymore. I think both deals run out at the end of this season anyway. I do have a shirt in the background that actually has the logo of Football Index on. I have the shirts up behind me to cover up the marks on the wall, so I apologise if there is anyone who is watching this or listening to this who's been affected by the Football Index thing. Well, there's more than a thing. It's a disaster really for those people who have lost life savings and things like that.
£90 million, that's losses coming from people that have put money into it.
It is. I've read a lot into it, and I think it's just I think the Gambling Commission have questions to answer when it comes to this. As you know, I've worked in the gambling industry and maintain a very close interest in the gambling industry. I've not touched Football Index myself because I'm not smart enough to understand how it worked initially in the first place.
You said to me, I said, I don't get it, I don't understand it. Even when we were looking at reviewing this, you said, I just don't understand it, it's too complicated. And I think you're right. And when you Google Football Index, first thing that comes up is Football Index legit. And that isn't a new thing. That's actually posts from an ongoing post. And the one thing about Football Index, I know people that have used it, and I know people that have made money out of it. And effectively, you bought shares in players, and if those players were playing well, you could sell those shares for more than you bought. You made money. Also, you were paid dividends over a period of time. It was encouraged that you would make larger. We both bet on football. £5 here, £10 here, £20 there. It was encouraged that to make a lot of money, you would put thousands of pounds down initially, and then be paid dividends over a period of time. And if that player did well, you'd make money from the fact that the player, you could sell those shares from the player for more money, and then you'd be paid the dividends. However, for us to bet the sums of money that people have potentially lost, we would do that over a period of years, not as an initial one-off investment that was almost labelled. And although all their terms and conditions and all their strapline said, you are gambling, it was almost labelled like a trading platform. I had their app, I even downloaded their app, and it was labelled like a trading platform, like Trading 212, eToro, that are legitimate stocks and shares and commodities trading platforms. This was almost labelled the same for football players, and it was marketed in a very slick way. The thing the Gambling Commission need to look at is where was the point in which people realised they lost? Because I think that's the bit. When you bet on a horse, when the race is over, you know you've won or lost.
Sometimes a long time before the race is over, mate. Speaking from experience from Cheltenham this week. Now, the thing I think, it was the fact that they changed the goalpost, didn't they? Football Index reduced the dividends significantly as a loss reduction sort of. I think they realised that they were going to lose substantial amount of money, and the reasoning given for them reducing the dividend payout is, but we've got to restructure to make sure that there is a platform left to work on in the coming months and years, and that wiped off major amounts of money for a significant amount of people who were using the platform. And as you say, it is part of the terms.
As you said, the demand fell out. It's like the traditional commodities. If the demand falls out, the price goes down. And ultimately, what happened was, as you said, the dividends wasn't there. The demand disappeared, and people couldn't sell. In every transaction, if you're selling something, there has to be a buyer, and there has to be a buyer at a price you're prepared to pay. And I think this is a very murky world. I don't necessarily think Football Index was set up in a malicious way, because it's been going since 2015. It was very popular. As I say, I know people that were using it and had great fun in often asking me about championship players. I think one of the players that I spoke to a colleague I work with was Callum Robertson when he was
at Preston.
and he made money off the fact that Callum Robson went to the Premier League, and but that was good fun. And unfortunately, the downside is as you say, when the dividends was changed, I just think this is a very untransparent way of gambling, and if it is the Gambling Commission that have authority over it, it just doesn't seem very transparent. I think that's the interesting one. So it's sad to see that happen. As you say, we've now got two teams without sponsors, and we've now got football fans without £90 million worth of money.
But at the end of the day, let's sort of look at this in a serious thing. I don't think Nottingham Forest and Queen's Park Rangers are bothered about not having a sponsor on the front of their shirt for the rest of the season. Our thoughts should be with the people who have lost significant amounts of money due to this. And I'm not saying it is the Gambling Commission's fault in my earlier sentiments. I'm just saying that maybe having a look at the way that these operators, especially for this, because Football Index, to my knowledge, are unique in this, aren't they? I don't think there are any other platforms that do a similar thing when it comes to football and trading like this. So yeah, I think lessons have to be learned to ensure this doesn't happen again, but that's obviously going to mean nothing to the people who have lost significant amount of money out there, and our thoughts are with them.
And the reality is it's very unlikely they're going to get a penny back, as sad as that is. So we're going to move on to, we said that we'd do this in the last week's podcast. We have got 9 games left for some teams. We're going to predict, some of it won't be hard, where we think the table and the playoffs are going to finish. And it'll be interesting to see how correct we are with 9 games to go. So, do you want to do promotion first or relegation
Let's
first?
do promotion. Start with the positives.
Okay, so I'll let you go first on the promotion, and I'll go first on the relegation. So go on, I'll let you... who do you think's going up as champions?
Norwich.
This is probably
Norwich, without shadow of a doubt.
I agree, yeah.
Without shadow of a doubt.
5 games lost all season, 26 goals conceded, which is the fewest in the league. They're a Premier League sides in Championship sides clothing. It's an honour to have them in this league right now in the form they're in. They beat Forest, and they basically just batted Forest off like they're an under-19 squad. And I just think I don't see them dropping too many points before the end of the season. Who do you think is finishing second?
Who's going up with them? I believe at the start of the season, I said Watford, and I'm not going to deviate from that. It's very easy.
I said Forest.
There you go. Watford are going to finish behind Norwich City, in my opinion. I know it's easy saying because they're the top 2 now, but I'm pretty sure it was between Watford and Bournemouth, I think I said, for automatic promotion at the start of the season, and I see no reason why Watford are not going to fill that second place. I just think they've got a little bit more about them than a Swansea and a Brentford, who maybe have hit,
or a Barnsley.
Well, they are a massive fly in the ointment, aren't they? There's no sign of their run abating at the moment, is there? But it's too much of an ask for them to finish in second place. But Watford, for me, are going to be the team who finish runners up to Norwich City.
I think Swansea are going to finish.
Well, they have that. They have that game in hand. They win that game in hand. They'll still be behind Watford on goal difference unless they win by 9 goals. We don't want to give Swansea a target of scoring goals because they can meet them targets after getting into the playoffs last season. Yeah, it's going to be a very tight race. They are 2 very good sides in their own right. And yeah, we'll just see. It's quite easy because
I'd love to say Brentford. I would love to say Brentford automatically. However, they just concede too many goals. And I know that sounds it's very easy. Don't get me wrong. They score more than every other team as well. But they just concede too many goals. And I just don't... One thing I'd say with Swansea is they're very good at grinding out 1-0 wins. And I see that being the difference. I see Watford stumbling. That will be interesting. I think that second place is... Obviously, it's far more competitive. Norwich are done. That second place, you could probably... On any given day, Watford could beat Swansea, Brentford could beat Swansea, and Watford could beat Brentford. It really could be as easy as that in any given day. Where do you see... Because I think... 4th, 3rd and 2nd are pretty much done. Where do you see the final playoff places being filled. And then the next question is, who do you then think will stand the best chance in the playoffs?
Oh, I don't think you can answer who'll stand the best chance in the playoffs, because you need to look at the form over the last few games of a season. I'll give a guess, but it wouldn't be confident in my opinion. Well, obviously, if I don't think Swansea are going to finish in second, they're going to be in the playoffs. Brentford will be in the playoffs. I actually think, if you're looking at the other teams who will fill the playoff places, I think you can swap out Barnsley and Reading and swap them with Bournemouth and Middlesbrough. I think Middlesbrough.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
I think you can never rule out a Neil Warnock side. Reading, it's just something about Reading. They've got a very good coach, as we've seen all through the season. Veljko Pavlovic, of course. Barnsley, the surprise team. But for me, it's just sustaining that over the next 9 games. I don't know whether they will be able to sustain that over the next 9 games. We said a podcast or 2 ago they may have peaked too soon. I'd love for Barnsley to be in the playoffs. It'd be brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I was talking to an old school friend, someone I've known even longer than you, so it shows I've known him for nearly 30 years. I was speaking to Jamie, who is a Norwich fan, and we were talking about teams following the Norwich model and having to spend money, and this is the team who proved that you don't have to spend money to be in an exalted position. Barnsley just play a style of football that is effective for them. They've got good young players. They've got a progressive manager who you wouldn't have heard of his managerial career. You might have heard of him as a player because he played for Bayern Munich back in the day, I believe. But he's gone in there. A hard act to follow with Gerhard Struber as well, and not many people who are neutrals are mentioning Gerhard Struber anymore. When he left, that was us included. Well, he's a hard act to follow. He got them playing good football. And this is a thing I don't agree with, because it's not Barnsley's fault and it's not the fans or players' fault. But you think Barnsley, really, apart from Wigan going into administration, would be a League One team this season.
Yep.
And they're currently 5th in the Championship, only 8 points off an automatic promotion spot with 9 games to go. If you said that to any Barnsley fan at the start of the season, they'd have bit both your hands off. Without shadow of a doubt, because it's amazing.
The one thing about you say about the manager is it actually feels like they've had a manager that's made them kick on again. Now, obviously, it's very easy to say given the position they're in, but in terms of the way they're playing, Gerhard Struber did an amazing job. I think only paled in comparison by the job that Vladimir Ismail's done. But I think they're a sprinter that's sprinting and about to run out of puff, and I think that Middlesbrough and Bournemouth are just canny hands at this. If it then goes into a playoff situation, it comes down to experience, and I wouldn't write off Middlesbrough.
I think if them 4 teams reach the playoffs, again, a lot depends on the form going into them. I just think you look at the players and the depth of squad that you have, I think you'd be looking at a Bournemouth, but obviously, yeah, I wouldn't put any money on that at the moment, because
if it was them 4 teams that you've just said, or if it was obviously swapping out Swansea for Watford, that's a good play. That's a good set of playoff fixtures, is all I'll say, and I think that'll be very entertaining. Relegation. Okay, so I'm going to say it now, and I'm going to go all the 3 teams that I think are going down. Wycombe are gone, in my eyes. I'd love them to stay up for the romance of it, but I just think they've got too big a hurdle. I think this was an amazing season for them. They've been brilliant in this league. I just think their squad lacks a little bit of depth, a little bit of quality, and that's going to show. But they're not going out of this league the way Ipswich did.
No, definitely not.
Sheffield Wednesday in the shambles that they are, I think they're gone. Darren Moore's not had a new manager bounce. Obviously, they drew at midweek. I think he's going to do really well for them in League One. And I think Coventry are going to go down. I think Rotherham have got a lot of games in hand. They are a number of points behind, but I just see more fight in Rotherham, even though they've lost 5 of their last 6. Where do you see it?
Looking at that, if you think that Coventry are going to go down, Rotherham have played 3 games less and they're 6 points behind Coventry with a better goal difference. So they've got to win 2 of their 3 games in hand to even come level par with Coventry. I think that's a big ask considering what's going on at Rotherham at the minute as well. I think you're looking at the bottom 3 as it is at the minute. Very boring and plain prediction. Wickham, as much as again echo your sentiments, they are going down battling, but they just don't have enough quality, unfortunately. Sheffield Wednesday, I think, are too far gone, and Rotherham, I don't know where I stand with this, because Rotherham have got 4 games in hand on some of the teams above them, 3 games in hand on Coventry and Sheffield Wednesday. I think you'd rather have points on the board than that's very much dependent on the mentality Paul Warren's got in his team. It's a chicken and the egg.
They're going to have a lot of games, but then they haven't played a lot of games.
But no,
so you presume that they can be fit up, but then they haven't been able to train.
No, they haven't been able to.
So much of an unknown quantity.
I mean, you have a look at what COVID has done to that squad. I mean, we didn't talk about it in the main news segment, but you look, there were 5,533 players tested from all 72 EFL clubs, 25 positive cases, all of them from Rotherham.
Yep.
In the latest round of testing, so they're absolutely ravaged. And I'm not saying that COVID is to blame for them being relegated. I think in this case, knowing there's pressure on them to fulfil fixtures.
Effect.
Well, that's not.
COVID could have a long-term effect in terms of like fitness. We look at Sam Maximan and how long he was out for Newcastle after having COVID. This could take its toll on a lot of these Rotherham players. They may not even be fit enough before the end of the season.
No, and we don't want to think worst case scenario, but my thing is more of a mental aspect, because they'll know what they've got to do to at least catch up and be on a level par with the likes of Coventry. I think Birmingham, although they are 21st at the minute, I think Lee Bowyer will go in there, a couple of wins in a row, maybe get them out of danger. Realistically, if Rotherham do win 2 of their 3 games in hand and put them on 38 points, I think you're looking up to anyone from 16th down. So Preston, Huddersfield, Forest and Derby are not safe yet. It could be very interesting if Rotherham could win them games in hand, but I just think it's too much of an ask. I really do. And we both like Paul Warren and Rotherham, don't we? I wouldn't like to see them go down, but I just think that Mark Robbins and Coventry City have got enough there. They've got points on the board, and I think for me that means a lot more than having these games in hand, because how many times do you think, as a football fan, your natural inclination is when you see you've got 2 games in hand, you automatically add 6 points to your tally, don't you? There's not a football fan in the land who ever goes, well, we're going to lose these 2 games in hand. Every football fan thinks positively and think, you give them their 3-4 games, 12 points, put them on 44 points. Not going to happen. The bottom 3 as it is, very boring and unimaginative from me, but the bottom 3 as it is at the minute are going down, unfortunately, in my opinion.
Cool. So, thank you for that, and thank you for listening, everyone. As always, you can catch our main podcast where we're going to be reviewing the 2 rounds of fixtures, the midweek and the weekend's games, and also be previewing the weekend's fixtures that are coming up. As always, check out our History of series where we're looking through the club by club. We have slowed down a little bit due to commitments, but we will be getting back to that at some point very soon. Smash us a like if you like the podcast. Leave us a comment down below if there's anything you want us to add or cover, because we are always interested in checking out topics that we perhaps have missed, or even news articles we may have missed. So that's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And we'll catch you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.